Okay, sit down in that chair, and what I want you to do is just be as professional as possible. Not every movie can be great. That's just the way it is. Sometimes you're going to get lesser movies, okay? And you just have to treat these movies with the utmost amount of respect possible. All right? So, I know you can do this. Let's give it a shot. Hate. God, I hated this movie with a fiery hate. Insidious The Red Door stars Ty Simpkins, Patrick Wilson, Rose Byrne, and is directed by Patrick Wilson. What's up, guys? Time for a brand new 2023 review. As you could probably tell in that intro, wasn't that happy with this movie, but seriously, I'll try to be as objective as I can about this movie, and I'll definitely set the table for you before we go into this review. The Insidious franchise, it's just one of those franchises. I've seen every movie. I think the first one's the only one I really like. The second one is weird, and then the rest of them, and I've reviewed 3 and 4 when they first came out. I just forget about these movies like so quickly after I leave the theater. The whole further thing and the astral plane and all that. I think it's a good idea, but I just don't like, the way it's handled in this particular franchise. I think the franchise bounces around with different ideas. And you got the red demon dude that's in that iconic picture from the first movie, but I don't think they ever capitalized on just making that guy like a bankable product, kind of like Freddy Krueger. He looks kind of like Freddy Krueger, and I don't even think he really has any lines. I'll tell you right now, and I think you probably know that he is sort of in this movie, but again, I think that's part of the problem here is that he's not utilized in the way I guess I would have liked, and I have complained about movies in the past and giving us what we want and how it shouldn't be that way, and that's true. But at the end of the day, if you don't like the movie, it might be because you didn't like the way they handled a certain character. Maybe you saw the potential in that character, okay? So I'm already getting off on a rant here. Oh, and also before we dive deep, the Crow Days of Sodom fan film, the Indiegogo dropped last week, and we're up to 7,000. Got about 25 days left. So, guys, I really want to get this film made. It takes help from you guys. We need all the support we can get. So, if you can, check out the Indiegogo campaign. Pick up a Blu-ray. Do whatever you can. Got quite a bit of celebrity involvement. The return of Lawrence Mason, who originally played Tintin, is going to be in this. I'm excited for this movie. So, yeah, please check out the Indiegogo campaign, guys. Thank you. First off, let's give you a quick plot synopsis. Really, our main character is played by Ty Simpkins in this movie, Dalton. If you remember, Dalton was a kid in the first movie. And in this movie, he is going to college. And Patrick Wilson plays his father, Josh. Josh and Renee, played by Rose Byrne, they are divorced. And so there's a different family dynamic here based on what happened to them in the past. A family, to make it through that would be a miracle anyway. So that I can totally understand. But there is this strain, this disconnect between Josh and his son. And so he decides to take him to college, and they just don't really get along. Well, the father would love to get along with Dalton, but Dalton's just not having it. And I think the big issue here is that his father wasn't there for him. He didn't spend too much time with him. And if you remember back in the first movie, and one thing I do like is at the beginning of this movie, they kind of catch you up. They show you a scene from the first movie and how he was, I guess, in a coma. All these memories of the further are just wiped from his head. So then, fast forward, he's in college, Dalton, and he's an artist, and he's in this artist class, which right away I was already annoyed with the movie because the art teacher is just a complete bitch. The first thing she says to one of the students is to rip up your work, and then she kicks him out of the class. And I'm like, wow, what kind of freaking teacher would do that? But long story short, Dalton ends up I guess, reopening the Further through his own art. So that's really what this movie is about. You know, Dalton having to deal with the Further, and then also Josh is having these incidents as well. I guess breaking the glass, and I already, let you know how I feel about this franchise. It is not my franchise. I'm not really on board. It's just, it doesn't really do much for me. So know that going into this, if you are just a massive Insidious fan, then you might get something out of this movie, okay? If you love Insidious like I like Halloween, then you might get something out of this movie. Know that before I go any further. No pun intended. But on a base level, as, good movie, bad movie, whatever, I don't care if you're the 5th or the 15th movie in a franchise, there is still potential there to make a good movie. It has been done before. There have been franchises that have been littered with shitty movies, but every now and then they'll get lucky and make a good movie. Amityville 2. Amityville 2 is like one of the greatest freaking possession movies ever made in a really shitty franchise. I go into every Insidious movie wanting it to be good, it to be something, to pull me in. And I'll even say, there was some merit, I think, in Insidious 3 and even the last Insidious movie. I don't think they were great by any means, but I was entertained. Whereas this movie, I was bored out of my mind. And I think the characters in this are just so superficial and one-dimensional, and I just can't really get behind what's going on. Even though these are characters, legacy characters from the first movie. It should be a lot more compelling, but I just think it was kind of lazy writing. I know Lee Winnell wrote this along with Scott Teems, and Scott Teems had a hand in some of the Halloween movies. Now, I like the Halloween movies, the recent ones, but maybe this particular franchise he just isn't meant for. I don't know. But there was nothing in these characters to really draw me in, and I think it was a decent idea to take this character, Dalton. Let's follow him. Let's see what's going on with him in college. And there could be some interesting stuff there, but they never really go past the surface. Now, there's this new character, Chris, played by Sinclair Daniels. She starts off as Dalton's roommate. And I guess she's sort of the sidekick throughout the movie. I couldn't tell if they were actually trying to put them together or if she was just going to be more of a friend. I didn't hate her, I think she served her purpose quite well, but she was just as superficial as the rest of the cast. Now let's talk about the scares, because I don't want to waste too much of your time. I think you get the idea that I didn't like this movie, but as far as like scares in this movie, I think it's pretty much the same amount as the previous movies. But here's what I would kind of compare at least this movie to. Just imagine you are in a haunted house, and you're going through a haunted house for 90 minutes. There's no story there, really. Or at least a story that is compelling and interesting, nothing to like suck you in. There's just this asshole that just jumps out and tries to scare you like every 5 minutes. In different ways. He might, come out from under the bed. He might try to come through the wall. He might try to be a little creative and puke on you. But everything around those scares, those jump scares, is just you sitting there kind of waiting, and you're not really invested, And I think that's when jump scares work the best, is when there is just this rise of tension because you are into the characters, you're into the story, and then by the time you get to that scare, you can't take it anymore, and it just all works, It's like a recipe. It's a very simple formula, damn it. I didn't mean to bring out a Scream reference, but it happened. But no, this movie, it's hollow. It just feels so freaking hollow all the way through, and I was just like literally dying inside. You ever watch a movie in the theater and you're just like, okay, I can't wait for this to end. I literally almost got up and walked out, and I never do that, okay? Now, last thing I want to mention was just kind of my experience in the theater. There were teenage girls in the back row behind me. There weren't that many people in the theater, and I just sat in the middle. I didn't even sit in the seat I was supposed to sit in because I didn't want to be near them, because as soon as I walked in, they're laughing and giggling and being extremely loud. And in their defense, the movie had not started yet, but it was just about to start. But my worst fears happened because throughout the entire movie, these teenage girls would not shut the fuck up. Just constant talking and laughing and even stomping. There were a couple times where they were literally running up and down the stairs. There were a couple times I literally almost turned my head and said, hey, could you please, stop. I'm not that guy to go get the manager. I'm just not that guy. I just want to be quiet and enjoy my movie. But luckily, I just could not get invested in this movie whatsoever. So that was kind of entertaining to me. I didn't really care. So I just let them do their thing. And I promise you guys that I would not have enjoyed this movie more if they would have shut up, because there was like a moment in the middle of the movie where they were quiet. The moments where they started getting loud again, I didn't care. But I could tell the rest of the audience was starting to get annoyed with them. So, I guess that was kind of entertaining. But this movie was it just fell really flat, okay? I could not get invested in it at all. And if this is the last Insidious movie, then good riddance. I'm glad, okay? I can't do this anymore, all right? I want to break up, all right? Seriously. Oh yeah, I got to give a rating. I will give this movie do I want to give this a looped in hell? Because I never, ever, ever give a movie a looped in hell unless but you know what? I think I respect Skinamarink more than I do this movie. And that movie was torture to sit through. And I gave that a looped in hell. So am I going to get 2 looped in hells this year? Yeah, fuck it. This movie gets a looped in hell. It's that bad. Jesus freaking Christ. Insidious, The Red Door. There you go, guys. I'm not even going to give you an outro. Screw it.